Alright, listen up. Most men walk through life like open books, wondering why they constantly lose battles they never even knew they were fighting. You feel that sting when your words lose their punch, when women effortlessly manipulate you, when you realize you've been played for a fool. That's the cold hard truth, isn't it? You've been operating without a shield, without a strategy. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on ancient wisdom, a playbook not for the faint of heart, but for the man who's ready to reclaim his power. We're talking about the game, gentlemen, and it's a brutal one. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. What you don't reveal is often your greatest weapon. If you're tired of being seen as anything less than a high-value man, if you crave genuine respect instead of feigned compliance, then pay attention. This isn't about cheesy pickup lines. It's about mastering the mental game of relationships, about understanding female behavior at its core. It's about a masculine strategy so potent it will redefine your interactions. Ignore this and you'll remain vulnerable, a pawn in someone else's emotional chess match. Stay and learn the 7 unbreakable rules that separate the predators from the prey, the men who control their destiny from those who are constantly controlled. Your emotional control is on the line, and this is your wake-up call. Let's dig in. You've been taught that honesty is always the best policy, that transparency builds trust. That's for naive boys, not for men who understand the true landscape of human interaction. When you lay all your cards on the table, you strip yourself naked. You reveal your desires, your weaknesses, your triggers. You become a predictable target. This isn't a game of trust, it's psychological warfare, and the moment you expose your ultimate goal, you invite sabotage. Women, especially, are masters of emotional chess. They instinctively sniff out your true intentions, your need for validation, your desire for commitment, your insecurities, and they will use them as leverage, consciously or unconsciously, to manipulate the dynamic. Think about it. What generates more intrigue? A puzzle whose solution is immediately obvious, or one that demands thought, effort, and discovery? A high-value man doesn't need to broadcast his intentions. His presence, his actions, the very air but around him speaks volumes without uttering a single word. When you operate with a veiled agenda, you create a powerful aura of mystery that is incredibly attractive. It compels others to lean in, to wonder, to invest their own energy trying to decipher you. This isn't about outright deceit. It's about strategic silence, about letting the other person fill in the blanks, often to their own disadvantage. This principle, understood by Machiavelli centuries ago, is the bedrock of true power. The man who hides his true objectives remains agile, unburdened by external pressure or the subtle attempts at manipulation from those who would thwart him. He moves unseen, observing, strategizing, waiting for the opportune moment to strike, or to reveal just enough to achieve his aim without giving away his entire hand. This freedom from expectation allows you to test, to observe, to adjust your masculine strategy on the fly without anyone knowing your true course. You can bait a trap, withdraw, or pivot, all while your opponent is still trying to figure out what you really want. Mastering this requires profound emotional control. It demands that you detach from your immediate desires, that you silence the urge to overcommunicate, to seek reassurance. This is the essence of the mental game, controlling your own impulses so you can control the perception others have of you. When you don't chase, when you don't over-pursue, when your intentions remain ambiguous, you compel others to chase you. This dynamic fundamentally shifts the power balance. It earns you genuine respect because you are not easily bought, not easily swayed, not easily read. You become a formidable force, a high-value man whose moves are calculated, whose actions are deliberate, and whose ultimate goals remain shrouded in strategic ambiguity. This isn't about playing games, it's about not being played. And understanding why you must hold your cards close is just the beginning. The next unbreakable rule reveals how to ensure your actions always reinforce this elusive power. No matter what, the true battlefield is often within. Your ability to maintain emotional control, particularly when the stakes are highest in moments of profound pain. Seething anger or paralyzing fear is not merely a sign of self-discipline, it is your ultimate shield against manipulation. An opponent, whether in business, relationships, or social dynamics, is always searching for the chink in your armor, the exposed nerve, the Achilles heel that can be exploited. When you react viscerally, when your frustration or insecurity bubbles to the surface, you provide a roadmap to your inner world, a blueprint for how to dismantle your resolve. This is basic Machiavelli. Understand human nature, understand its vulnerabilities, and use that knowledge to your advantage. A shrewd adversary doesn't need to know your deepest desires if they can simply push the right buttons to trigger an uncontrolled emotional outburst. This isn't about becoming a robot devoid of feeling. It's about cultivating an internal fortress, a mental game so robust that your outward demeanor remains unruffled even as a storm rages within. When others see you remain composed in chaos, serene in the face of adversity, their assumptions about your power fundamentally shift. They begin to attribute to you an almost superhuman resilience, a strategic depth they cannot fathom. This inscrutability becomes a source of immense respect. You command attention not through displays of force, but through an unwavering stillness that suggests immense untapped reserves of strength. This emotional discipline is a cornerstone of the effective masculine strategy. It transforms you from a predictable entity into an enigma, forcing others to guess your intentions, to expend their energy trying to decipher your calm, rather than confidently exploiting your agitation. Think of it as emotional chess. Every move you make, every non-reaction, every measured response, is designed to keep your opponent off balance, to deny them the satisfaction of a visible victory over your spirit. A high-value man understands that vulnerability, when displayed prematurely or without strategic intent, is a liability, not an asset. You deny others the very tools they would use to pull your strings. By mastering your own emotional landscape, you strip away their ability to provoke, to destabilize, to ultimately control you. You become the puppeteer of your own narrative, not a puppet in someone else's play. This level of self-mastery, this profound power over your own internal states, does more than just prevent manipulation. It actively shapes the perception of your unshakable will. And the deeper implications of this mastery extend far beyond just avoiding traps to mentally shift. They begin to attribute to you an almost superhuman resilience, a strategic depth they cannot fathom. This becomes a source of immense respect. You command attention not through displays of force, but through an unwavering stillness that suggests immense, untapped reserves of strength. This emotional discipline is a cornerstone of any effective masculine strategy. It transforms you from a predictable entity into an enigma, forcing others to guess your intentions, to expend their energy trying to decipher your calm, rather than confidently exploiting your agitation. Think of it as emotional chess. Every move you make, every non-reaction, every measured response, is designed to keep your opponent off balance, to deny them the satisfaction of a visible victory over your spirit. A high-value man understands that vulnerability, when displayed prematurely or without strategic intent, is a liability, not an asset. You deny others the very tools they would use to pull your strings. By mastering your own emotional landscape, you strip away their ability to provoke, to destabilize, to ultimately control you. You become the puppeteer of your own narrative, not a puppet in someone else's play. This level of self-mastery, this profound power over your own internal states, does more than just prevent manipulation. It actively shapes the perception of your unshakable will. And the deeper implications of this mastery extend far beyond just avoiding traps. This profound internal control, this mastery over your own emotional landscape, is merely the foundation for a more expansive and formidable masculine strategy, the deliberate cultivation of strategic ambiguity regarding your external alignments. Just as you deny others insight into your emotional state, you deny them critical intelligence about your alliances and your adversaries. This is a core principle, one that Machiavelli himself would commend. Never explicitly declare your hand. Never fully expose your network. A high-value man understands that clarity in this arena is a weakness, not a virtue. If your enemies know precisely who stands with you, they have a clear target for undermining your strength. If they know exactly who you consider your foe, that they can exploit that knowledge, leveraging your antagonisms for their own gain or manipulating situations to provoke a conflict that serves their agenda. This isn't about deception for deception's sake, but about an advanced mental game, a form of psychological warfare where information asymmetry becomes your greatest weapon. By keeping your allies unnamed and your enemies unstated, you force everyone around you into a perpetual state of uncertainty. They cannot accurately map your strategic landscape. They don't know where your support might come from or who might secretly oppose their efforts against you. This breeds not just caution, but a potent blend of fear and respect. Your power isn't diluted by this secrecy, it's amplified, transformed into an almost mythical force. You become an unpredictable variable in their equations, an unknown quantity that demands careful consideration before any aggressive move. This is how you prevent manipulation on a grand scale. You remove the targets, you obscure the lines of attack, you deny them the very leverage they would use to pull your strings or orchestrate your downfall. This masculine strategy of undisclosed alliances and hidden antagonisms makes direct assaults inherently risky and often deters them entirely. How can an opponent launch a decisive strike when they don't know the full extent of your unseen reserves? How can they effectively plan a campaign against you when they are unsure if their own actions might inadvertently provoke a powerful, unrevealed ally into action? This isn't isolation, it's strategic invulnerability. It creates an impenetrable perimeter around your true operational capacity. This consistent denial of critical information, mirroring your unshakable emotional control, ensures you are always operating from a position of strategic advantage, forcing your adversaries to fight phantoms and chase shadows, rather than engaging with your tangible strength. And the implications of this level of control extend even further into the very way you command attention. When you refuse to publicly register disdain, you create a vacuum of information that unnerves those around you. People don't know where you stand on every petty squabble or personal slight. This lack of overt emotional reaction is profoundly unsettling to those accustomed to immediate gratification of their need for a response. Instead of seeing you as weak or afraid, they see an enigma, a man whose emotional control is so absolute that he doesn't grant them the dignity of his animosity. This breeds respect, a different kind of respect, one born of uncertainty and a subtle, pervasive fear of the unknown. This isn't merely apathy, it's a deliberate Machiavellian power play. You deny your adversaries the satisfaction of knowing they've touched a nerve. You deny potential manipulators the blueprints to your internal landscape. Your power grows in the shadows of this ambiguity. It's a relentless mental game where you force others to project their own fears and insecurities onto your neutral canvas. They'll constantly search for tells, for a flicker of contempt, and finding none, they'll begin to question their own perceptions, their own importance. This is psychological warfare at its finest, turning their own cognitive biases against them. A high-value man understands that expressing open contempt is a direct concession of vital energy and, more importantly, power. He doesn't engage in battles beneath his station. His strategic indifference signals that the object of potential disdain is simply not worthy of his attention, let alone his emotional investment. This masculine strategy asserts dominance not through aggression, but through an elevated detachment. This level of emotional control acts as an impenetrable shield against manipulation. If they don't know what you truly despise, they cannot effectively use it as leverage. They cannot orchestrate scenarios to trigger your anger or disgust. Because you refuse to show that such triggers exist, you become immune to their emotional chess. The respect you earn isn't just about not showing vulnerability. It's about signaling a deeper, more sophisticated understanding of power dynamics. It implies that your focus is on grander objectives, not on the petty squabbles of lesser men. You establish yourself as a formidable force whose very silence is a statement. And this strategic silence, this mastery over your declared contempt, also profoundly shapes the alliances you forge and the enemies you cultivate. This strategic silence, this mastery over your declared contempt, also profoundly shapes the alliances you forge and the enemies you cultivate, precisely because it extends to every facet of your being, especially your struggles. The man who broadcasts his sacrifices, who airs his wounds for public consumption, is not seeking understanding. He's soliciting pity, a cheap substitute for true respect. Pity is a poison to power. It marks you as a victim, a subordinate, someone to be managed rather than feared or admired. A truly high-value man understands this fundamental truth. Your suffering is your own crucible. The fires you walk through are for your refinement, not for public spectacle. To overcome adversity in silence, to bear your burdens without complaint, is the ultimate demonstration of masculine strategy. It's a profound mental game, played on the highest level against both external pressures and internal weaknesses. Consider the teachings of Machiavelli here. A ruler, or any individual seeking to maintain power, must carefully manage perceptions. A leader seen as weak, as one who crumbles under pressure or parades his misfortunes, loses his grip on the hearts and minds of his subjects. He invites challenges and opens himself up to manipulation. This isn't about denying your humanity or suppressing genuine emotion. It's about mastering your emotional control. It's about refusing to give others the ammunition to exploit your vulnerabilities. Every time you lament, every time you highlight a sacrifice, you're inadvertently signaling a potential point of manipulation. You are telling the world, here is where I am weak. Here is where I need validation. That validation, if granted, comes at the cost of your formidable aura. The silence around your struggles doesn't just protect you from manipulation. It builds an aura of invincibility. People project strength onto what they cannot see. They respect the man who quietly shoulders immense burdens because they intuitively understand the immense power and discipline it takes. This quiet fortitude, this unspoken resilience paradoxically amplifies your influence. It's an unspoken declaration of your self-sufficiency, your unyielding will. It establishes a profound level of respect. It signals you are a force of nature, not a fragile human waiting for applause or compassion. The less you reveal about your inner struggles, the more others are forced to project their own assumptions of your strength onto you, creating an almost mythical perception of your capacity. This complete emotional control extends beyond merely not displaying contempt. It is the cornerstone of how you are perceived in any negotiation, any confrontation, or any challenge to your authority. This isn't just about emotional control, it's about strategic self-preservation. Think of it as a form of psychological warfare where every piece of information you withhold is a strategic advantage. You are playing a long game, a complex mental game, where your internal landscape remains an impenetrable fortress. A truly high-value man understands that vulnerability, when displayed carelessly, is not a strength. It is a weakness that invites external forces to test your resolve, to probe for leverage. Machiavelli himself understood this principle profoundly. The ruler, like the man who seeks true power, must always maintain an element of enigma. He must cultivate a perception of strength, even if the underlying reality is complex. To reveal your full hand, your every fear, your every desire, is to hand your adversaries the blueprint for your undoing. It is an open invitation for manipulation. Your true masculine strategy here is to become the unreadable book, the silent storm. When people cannot categorize you, when they cannot fully comprehend your motives or your breaking points, they are forced to deal with you on your terms. This refusal to lay bare your soul, this disciplined emotional control, amplifies your perceived power exponentially. It builds a foundation of respect that few can ever challenge. They will scrutinize your actions, not your words, searching for clues. And when they find none, their respect for your impenetrable resolve will only deepen. This isn't coldness, it's calculated dominance. It's the ultimate defensive measure against the constant barrage of emotional chess games played in the human arena. When you reveal less, you invite speculation. And that speculation often magnifies your perceived stature, making you seem larger, more significant, and far more formidable. People will attribute strengths and depths to you that you may not even possess simply because you do not offer contrary evidence. This is the subtle art of cultivating an almost mythical presence, a figure of significant power whose true limits remain unknown, whose intentions are always speculated upon, never confirmed. This masculine strategy forces others to tread carefully around you, aware that they are dealing with an entity whose full capacity is yet to be revealed. They cannot exploit what they do not know, and thus, they cannot effectively engage in the kind of manipulation that targets the transparent. This mastery over your own narrative, this deliberate withholding of information, makes you largely immune to the petty attempts at manipulation that plague lesser men. It means you command a different kind of respect, one born not of sympathy or understanding, but of awe and a healthy dose of apprehension. Your silence, your controlled demeanor, becomes a projection of limitless potential, a force others must contend with on uneven ground, always on your terms. This brings us to another critical aspect of asserting your dominance, an often overlooked dimension of the mental game that separates the leader from the LED, how you frame your "So, tell me, have you ever been manipulated, your strings pulled, and you didn't even realize it until it was too late?" The subtle art of emotional control, mastering the mental game, and understanding true power are not for the faint of heart. To truly become a high-value man, to command unshakable respect and avoid the pitfalls of manipulation, you must embrace the kind of profound masculine strategy that would make Machiavelli himself nod in approval. Don't miss out on these essential lessons. Subscribe to the channel and activate the bell now, because only here will you continue to learn the deep strategies that most men never discover. Ready to uncover the next level of your transformation? Watch this video next. Until then, stay sharp.